My relationship with The Social Network is somewhat strange. It's something I was lukewarm on when I first watched it as a young teenager when it came out in theaters, but literally every watch since then has given me a greater appreciation for it until now, when it has undeniably become a top favorite. It's like every single subsequent rewatch has offered me a new realization, something different to appreciate as my perception of how brilliant it is slowly but steadily snowballs, and that's because of how integrative its strengths are. The magic of this film is realized partly through how harmonious it is, with each element feeding into the other and helping it feel very much like a cohesive tapestry. But although each individual aspect is super significant and contributory in this way, the writing, pacing, and directing are the bread and butter of The Social Network. While I'm well aware that this isn't a unique opinion, Aaron Sorkin's script is without a doubt one of the best I've ever experienced in cinema, a potent and efficient combination of sharp yet elegant writing that is not only justifiably acclaimed to be technically excellent, but it's also extremely revealing in terms of who these characters are, accentuated by the acting, of course. Take the much celebrated introductory scene, for instance. And I know you've probably heard tons of praise for this scene already, but please just bear with me because I can't help but gush about what it establishes in terms of characterization and thematics. The conversation with Mark and Erica is, thanks to the way that Mark leads it, rapid, pulsating, and filled with a nagging desperation immediately. We can see very clearly through what he's saying that Mark is just yearning to prove himself. He's insecure and he's got an ego. He's proud, he's very self-interested, and he's not very considerate of others' feelings. From the get-go, every word he speaks is imbued with this sense of gnawing anxiety that clearly eats away at Mark every second of his existence. The feeling that he needs to achieve something great and significant and be looked at as an important man, so that all of this can quote-unquote lead to a better life. You get the impression immediately that Mark is likely incapable of properly relaxing due to this thirst to make himself feel bigger, or more notably, to progress. Like many creative visionaries, he's so overtaken by his fervent passion for this that he hand-waves certain important aspects of his life, and shuns and disrespects those who would otherwise be capable of helping him find peace and respite from this exhausting marathon. And the tension of this conversation completely dissipates into a sad lull when Mark finally confirms what he's been overtly hinting at all this time. That he simply doesn't respect Erica as an equal.
I was just saying that you go to VIII. I was stating a fact, that's all, and if it seemed rude, then of course I apologize.
I have to go study.
You don't have to study.
Why do you keep saying I don't have to study?
Because you go to VIII.
The tension once again escalates a bit and makes itself known as Erica finalizes their breakup after his tirade, and their exchange continues at this pace as Mark fruitlessly backpedals and makes things worse for himself. Erica then storms out, leaving Mark stewing in self-pity and regret. And almost 5.5 minutes into the movie, we can finally breathe. This opening sequence with Erica and Mark is not a car chase, but it's nearly as breathless and anxious as one while effortlessly providing initial character work. And then, it's an exhale and a hush that is just as effective as what came before. It's a silence, one that is somehow simultaneously comforting and uneasy, as we hear the peaceful piano keys of this wonderful track, appropriately titled Hand Covers Bruise, accented by an underlying yet palpable synth whine that completely alters the complexion of the tone into something darker and somewhat ominous. As Mark jogs back to his dorm, we're left with one distinct impression. That, independent from everything going on in the world around him, this young man is deeply unsatisfied with his lot in life, and desperate to find some semblance of value, and he will do what he must to obtain it. In this moment, as Mark travels through the beautiful Harvard campus, we are given some time to catch our breath and reflect on what we've just seen, with the tone, text, and subtext of the past few minutes telling us the direction and focus the film will be going in. a direction that it never betrays, not even once. There is so much to praise when it comes to The Social Network as a technical work of art. Fincher's very deliberate use of color and framing, the ingenious and minimalistic way in which the heartfelt Eduardo Saverin works as the true soul of a story that is otherwise quite cynical and cutthroat, the amazing score, the beautiful editing. But the craft put into these two opening scenes works like magic in establishing the main thing I take away from this film. I always loved watching The Social Network when I was looking forward to enrolling in university, or when I was thinking about moving back to campus in between years. I found that the first half or so quite beautifully displayed all that is good about the independent early adult life. Being able to live on a gorgeous campus, pure freedom, no rules as long as you're not being a delinquent, parties, meeting new people. This movie offers a quite romantic window into the best things about college and university, not because of Mark's experiences here, but because of everyone around him. If you pay attention, there is such a huge contrast in nearly every scene between the constant mental wanderlust of Mark compared to those in his surroundings. Everyone at the bar is chilling out, unwinding and having fun, and Mark is wound up, thinking about how to get into a finals club. On his way back from the bar, people are on leisurely strolls, taking in the sights, heading to a party, playing instruments, and Mark is just running to get home and bitch about being dumped, reaching for some way to take his mind off of it, escaping from the horrible quiet that would be painful for him that is instead seemingly a respite for everyone else. People worry about dates and sex and sports and grades, and Mark just races ahead trying to come up with the next big thing and satiate the black hole of his desire. Mark does not at all enjoy his time in university, while so many around him do, so The Social Network, through these background characters and interactions, offers us a window and tease into the great things about this time in our lives. And aside from the personal significance here, it says a lot about Mark and creative, ambitious minds in general. Sometimes the huge thing you desperately wish to achieve comes at the expense of happiness, peace, and connections. Whether it be because so many of these visionaries are like this, or because reaching those goals simply requires that sort of mindset and dedication. You may achieve your endeavor like Mark did by the conclusion, but you might also be left looking at all the mistakes you left behind in your wake and all of the things you wish you had done differently. It's more bitter than sweet, to be honest, highlighted by Mark's desperate yearning that is still present at the end of the film. The difference in that yearning being that now that he's gotten where he dreamed of, it's not an anxiety to progress Facebook further, but a want to repair the bridges that he blew up on the way to this. To return to a potential road to genuine happiness, to a more innocent time where an understanding woman was actually willing to help him find his way. Mark's journey throughout this film is something extremely valuable to reflect on. A give and take, and a conflicting exercise in perspective. Speaking personally, The Social Network helped me form a big part of my identity. It helped me realize that there are so many paths that we can take in life, and there will be regrets no matter what. But if you become tunnel-visioned, then you may miss the forest for the trees. Mark was full steam ahead the entirety of the story, looking at how to succeed more than anything else, failing to take a step back and really look at his situation to see if things were going like he actually wanted. Is jeopardizing his relationship with Erica really worth his pride? Is cold success really worth dismissing a potential best friend for life in Eduardo? Is Sean Parker really the type of person he wants to be closely associated with? And more importantly, does he have his best interests in mind? Mark is without doubt an asshole, but the nuance in the script and acting here is that there is always that hesitancy that shows us that he was a reluctant asshole who did have a heart, and just chose the unsavory alternative every time. He tells Sean that he could have been nicer to Eduardo when confronting him, but doesn't object to diluting the former's shares and doing him dirty. He makes the effort to apologize to Erica, but when that doesn't go as planned, instead of looking at himself, understanding what led to this situation, and learning how to improve as a person, he channels this unhappiness into a drive to further progress his material ambitions.
Yeah, that was great. That was the right thing to do. You apologized, right?
We have to expand.
Oh, what, Mark?
Is he mad about something?
It isn't hard to understand what Mark values. He just wants to be loved and admired and truly respected. While he doesn't act like it a lot of the time, and while he does communicate this poorly, I think that he clearly values the scant relationships he has, but he's still lonely and he needs more, and this deep yearning manifests in a ton of pettiness, rudeness, and ironic self-interest in his personality. And his subconscious reasoning was that through widespread success and innovation, he would gain that warmth he craved from others. But by keeping his head down and through avoiding introspection, avoiding the fact that his dedication to achieving his goal was undercutting the reason that he wanted to get there in the first place, Mark hamstrung himself. On the long and arduous journey to a goal that he thought would bring him happiness, he turned to a mechanical success every time, pushing away a lot of what he actually wanted. Although I'm sure the cold success did bring him some measure of fulfillment as well. I used to think that the final line in the film was kind of ham-fisted and cliché, but in reflecting on it now, it is quite an apt description of Mark.
You're not an asshole, Mark. You're just trying so hard to be.
He was an asshole, but a successful one. However, while he earned what he craved early on, was he really happy at the end? Did he ever find the connection he wanted? Will he ever? Aaron Sorkin has explicitly said that The Social Network never takes a position about who is right, who is wrong, or even what it's about. But as an appreciative onlooker, what I take from the film through its design is a tale of caution in relation to lofty goals. Because just as that first exhale at the end of the opening scene encourages, this movie has taught me to learn to take things in. Don't let ambition overtake and consume you. Take a breather. Look at things in a more flexible and broad way. Think about what you really want, and don't instinctually charge ahead as a release, because in doing so, you'll have tossed away everything that may have made you happy. Be honest, and when you come to these hugely important decisions in life, don't underestimate how much thought you may want to put into them. And that will help you become the person you truly want to be. As forthright and frank as it is beautifully presented, The Social Network is everything I could hope a film to be, and I can't thank it enough for what it's done for me. Many thanks for watching.